In a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from the bustling trade routes and glittering cities of advanced civilizations, there existed a council known as the Stellar Accord. This council was made up of representatives from dozens of worlds, all working together to solve problems that affected the galaxy as a whole. For years, they had faced challenges ranging from resource shortages to territorial disputes. But one issue had always been pushed aside: the mystery of Class 13 worlds. Class 13. Worlds were planets categorized as dangerous and unpredictable. These planets had ecosystems that seemed to resist stability, with climates that shifted violently and native species that often displayed aggressive behavior. The Stellar Accord had long avoided these worlds, deeming them too risky to explore. But now, as resources across the galaxy dwindled, whispers began to spread among the council members. What if one of these worlds held the key to solving their problems? What if they had been wrong to ignore them for so long? It was during one of these tense council meetings that Alan Carter, a young analyst who rarely spoke up, decided to voice an idea that had been forming in his mind. He cleared his throat nervously and leaned forward in his seat. "What about Earth?" he asked, his voice steady despite the weight of the question. The room fell silent. Dozens of eyes turned toward him, some curious, others skeptical. Earth was a Class 13 world, one of the most notorious on record. Its atmosphere was thick with gases that fluctuated unpredictably, and its surface was home to countless species, many of which were known to be hostile. Yet, Earth also stood out for another reason: it was teeming with life. Unlike many other Class 13 worlds, which were barren wastelands or frozen tundras, Earth was vibrant and full of potential. Laura Bennett, the head of exploration for the Stellar Accord, frowned as she considered Alan's suggestion. She was a tall woman with sharp features and a no-nonsense attitude. Her reputation for making tough decisions had earned her both respect and fear among her peers. "Earth is risky," she said finally, breaking the silence. "We've avoided it for good reason. But isn't that exactly why we should go?" Alan replied, surprising even himself with his boldness. "Every other option has failed us. If Earth is as chaotic as the reports say, maybe that chaos is what we need. Maybe it's hiding something valuable beneath all the instability." Laura hesitated. She knew Alan had a point. Desperation was driving the council to consider options they would have dismissed outright in the past. Supplies of essential minerals and energy sources were running dangerously low, and tensions between member worlds were rising. If they didn't find a solution soon, the entire alliance could collapse. After a long pause, Laura nodded slowly. "Fine," she said. "We'll send a small team to scout the planet, but this isn't a colonization mission. It's reconnaissance only. We gather data, assess the risks, and leave. No unnecessary risks." The decision was met with murmurs of agreement, though not everyone looked convinced. Some council members exchanged worried glances, while others scribbled notes furiously. Regardless, the plan was set into motion. A crew was assembled, led by Captain Ryan Mitchell, a seasoned explorer with a reputation for handling difficult missions. His second-in-command was Natalie Brooks, a scientist with expertise in alien biology and ecosystems. Together, they would lead the expedition to Earth. As preparations began, the crew gathered aboard their ship, a sleek vessel designed for speed and stealth. The ship was equipped with advanced technology, including translation devices capable of deciphering unknown languages and cloaking systems to avoid detection. Despite these tools, the mood among the crew was tense. Most of them had heard stories about Class 13 worlds, stories of failed missions and lost teams, and Earth was no exception. Captain Mitchell tried to keep morale high, but even he couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. He spent hours reviewing data on Earth, studying maps and analyzing reports. The planet was vast, with continents separated by oceans and regions that varied wildly in climate and terrain. It was a puzzle, and Mitchell wasn't sure where to start. Natalie, on the other hand, was more optimistic. She saw Earth as an opportunity rather than a threat. Her fascination with biology had driven her to volunteer for this mission, and she was eager to see what kind of life forms awaited them. "Think about it," she said to Mitchell one evening as they reviewed the final plans. "If Earth really is as diverse as the reports say, imagine what we could learn. Not just about the planet itself, but about life in general." Mitchell nodded, though his expression remained cautious. "I hope you're right," he said. "But we can't afford to get complacent. This isn't going to be easy." Finally, the day of departure arrived. The ship launched smoothly, leaving behind the familiar stars of the Council's territory and heading toward the uncharted frontier of Earth. As they approached the planet, the crew gathered in the observation deck to watch as it came into view. At first, it looked like any other world, a swirling mass of blues and greens surrounded by clouds. But as they drew closer, details began to emerge. Vast oceans stretched across the surface, dotted with islands and landmasses. Mountain ranges rose sharply into the sky, and rivers carved intricate patterns through lush forests. "It's beautiful," Natalie whispered, her voice filled with awe. "Beautiful doesn't mean safe," Mitchell reminded her, though even he couldn't deny the planet's allure. The ship entered Earth's atmosphere without incident, its cloaking system ensuring they remained undetected. They landed in a secluded area near what appeared to be a large human settlement. From above, the buildings looked primitive compared to those on other worlds, but there was a sense of order to them. Roads connected the structures, and vehicles moved along them in steady streams. As the crew prepared to disembark, Mitchell gave one last warning. "Remember, we're here to observe, not interfere. Stick to the plan, and stay alert. We don't know how these humans will react to us." With that, they stepped out onto Earth's soil for the first time, their hearts pounding with a mix of excitement and trepidation. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. This mission would change everything, for better or worse. The crew stepped cautiously onto Earth's surface, their boots sinking slightly into the soft grass. The air smelled different, earthy and fresh, with a faint tang that none of them could quite place. Captain Ryan Mitchell scanned the area, his eyes sharp and alert. Around them, trees swayed gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling like whispers. In the distance, strange noises echoed, birds chirping, insects buzzing, and the occasional roar of what sounded like large animals. Natalie, Brooks adjusted her translation device, ensuring it was ready to interpret any sounds or languages they might encounter. She glanced at Mitchell, who gave her a brief nod. They had rehearsed this moment countless times during their journey, but now that they were actually here, everything felt surreal. The weight of being on a Class 13 world pressed heavily on them, even as curiosity tugged at their minds. The settlement wasn't far from where they landed. It sprawled across the horizon, a maze of buildings made from materials that looked both sturdy and crude compared to the sleek designs of their own ships. Vehicles zipped along wide roads, and groups of humans moved about, some carrying bags, others talking animatedly. The scene was chaotic yet strangely organized, like a hive of activity. Mitchell signaled for the team to move forward. They kept their cloaking devices active, rendering themselves invisible to the naked eye. For now, observation was their priority. As they approached the edge of the settlement, Natalie noticed something peculiar. The humans seemed primitive in some ways. Their technology appeared rudimentary compared to what she was used to, but there was an undeniable spark of intelligence in their actions. They communicated using complex gestures and vocal tones, and their behavior suggested cooperation and problem-solving skills. "This is fascinating," Natalie murmured under her breath, careful not to speak too loudly despite the cloaking system. "Their society is so adaptable." Mitchell didn't respond immediately. His focus was on the humans' reactions, or lack thereof, to their presence. So far, no one seemed to notice anything unusual. That changed quickly when Mitchell decided it was time to reveal themselves. "We can't stay hidden forever," he said quietly. "If we want to make contact, we need to do it now." Natalie hesitated but nodded in agreement. Slowly, Mitchell deactivated the cloaking device. The crew materialized before a group of humans who were standing near a food stall. At first, the humans froze, their eyes widening in shock. Then chaos erupted. A man dropped the bag he was holding, shouting something incomprehensible. A woman nearby screamed, pointing at the crew. Within seconds, the entire crowd was in motion, scattering in all directions. Some ran toward nearby buildings, while others grabbed objects, sticks, stones, anything they could use as weapons, and brandished them defensively. What did I miss? Alan Carter's voice crackled over the communicator. He was monitoring the mission remotely from the council headquarters. First contact didn't go as planned, Mitchell replied dryly, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. We're fine, but these humans aren't exactly welcoming. Natalie stepped forward, activating her translation device. We mean no harm, she called out, her voice amplified by the device. The words came out distorted, but the intent seemed clear enough. Most of the humans paused, lowering their makeshift weapons slightly. However, one particularly bold individual, a tall man with a shaved head, charged forward, swinging a metal pipe. Mitchell reacted instinctively, sidestepping the attack and grabbing the man's arm. He twisted it gently, forcing the man to drop the pipe without causing injury. The crowd gasped, watching intently as Mitchell released the man and took a step back. We're not here to fight, he said firmly, though his words were still garbled through the translator. Just then, a young woman pushed her way through the crowd. She was shorter than most of the others, with dark hair tied back neatly and a notebook clutched in her hand. Her name was Samantha Cole, though the crew didn't know that yet. Samantha held up her hands, signaling for calm. Wait, she shouted, her voice cutting through the commotion. They're not attacking us. The humans hesitated, glancing between Samantha and the alien visitors. Samantha took advantage of the lull to address the crew directly. Can you understand me? She asked slowly, enunciating each word carefully. Natalie adjusted her device again, nodding. Yes, we come in peace. Samantha exhaled sharply, relief washing over her face. She turned to the crowd, speaking rapidly in her native language. Though the crew couldn't fully understand her words, her tone conveyed reassurance. Gradually, the tension eased and the humans lowered their weapons completely. With Samantha acting as an intermediary, the crew managed to retreat safely back to their ship. Once inside, they reviewed the events of the day, discussing what had gone wrong and how they could improve future interactions. Mitchell admitted that revealing themselves so suddenly may have been a mistake, but Natalie argued that it was inevitable. Humans were naturally curious and naturally fearful. Their reaction was understandable. Back at the council headquarters, Alan listened intently to the report streaming in from the crew. Despite the rocky start, he felt a flicker of hope. These humans weren't entirely hostile. They simply reacted unpredictably under pressure. Perhaps with more patience and better communication, the crew could build trust. Meanwhile, Samantha returned to her apartment in the city, her mind racing. She had always been fascinated by the possibility of extraterrestrial life, but she never imagined she'd witness it firsthand. The aliens' appearance had sparked panic among her fellow humans, but Samantha saw something else, a chance to learn, to grow, and maybe even to change the course of history. As she sat down at her desk, pen in hand, she began jotting notes, furiously. If the aliens returned, and she believed they would, she wanted to be prepared. This wasn't just an encounter between two species, it was an opportunity, and Samantha intended to seize it. The next morning, the crew gathered in the ship's main chamber to discuss their next move. Captain Ryan Mitchell paced back and forth, his brow furrowed in thought. The previous day's encounter had been a disaster, but it also provided valuable insight. The humans were not inherently hostile, they were simply scared. Fear drove their actions, and fear could be managed with patience and understanding. We can't rush this, Mitchell said finally, stopping in front of the crew. If we push too hard, they'll see us as a threat. We need to show them we're here to help. Natalie Brooks nodded in agreement. She had spent hours reviewing footage of the encounter, studying the humans' body language and reactions. They responded better when Samantha stepped in, she added. She seems to understand both sides. Maybe we should work through her. Alan, Carter's voice crackled over the communicator. He had been analyzing the data sent back from Earth and agreed with Natalie's assessment. "Samantha might be our key," he said. "If she's willing to cooperate, she could bridge the gap between us." Mitchell considered this for a moment before making his decision. "We'll try again," he announced. "But this time, we'll approach differently. No sudden appearances. We'll use holograms to demonstrate peaceful intentions first." The crew set to work preparing for the second attempt. They programmed a holographic projection that would display images of Earth's beauty, its forests, oceans, and wildlife, alongside symbols of cooperation, like hands reaching out to one another. The goal was simple: reassure the humans that the aliens meant no harm. When everything was ready, the crew returned to the same area near the settlement. This time, they activated the holograms before stepping out into view. The colorful projections shimmered in the air, catching the attention of nearby humans. At first, people stared in confusion, unsure what to make of the strange lights. Then, as the images became clearer, murmurs spread through the crowd. Samantha Cole arrived shortly after, drawn by the commotion. When she saw the holograms, her eyes widened in surprise. She recognized the message immediately. It was an olive branch. Slowly, she approached the source of the projections, her notebook clutched tightly in her hand. Natalie stepped forward, her translation device active. "We are here to learn," she said, her words clear despite the slight distortion. "We mean no harm." Samantha nodded, her expression calm but curious. "I believe you," she replied, speaking slowly so the device could interpret her words. "But not everyone will trust you right away. Many people are afraid." "We understand," Mitchell interjected, stepping beside Natalie. "Fear is natural, but if we work together, we can overcome it." Over the next few days, Samantha acted as a mediator between the crew and the humans. She introduced them to local leaders, explaining their mission and emphasizing the benefits of cooperation. Not everyone was convinced. Some viewed the aliens with suspicion, while others outright rejected the idea of working with them. But a small group of humans began to see potential in the partnership. Through Samantha, the crew learned about Earth's rich biodiversity and the challenges humanity faced. Resources were unevenly distributed, leading to conflict and inequality. Pollution had damaged the planet's ecosystems, and climate instability threatened entire regions. Despite these issues, humans displayed remarkable resilience and creativity, finding ways to adapt and survive. Natalie was particularly fascinated by Earth's technological advancements. While much of humanity's tech seemed primitive compared to what she was used to, certain areas showed promise. Renewable energy sources, medical innovations, and communication systems hinted at untapped potential. If combined with alien technology, these developments could benefit both species. However, not all humans welcomed the idea of collaboration. A faction led by Victor Grayson, a charismatic politician with a knack for stirring emotions, viewed the aliens as a threat to humanity's sovereignty. Grayson held rallies in the streets, rallying supporters with fiery speeches that painted the extraterrestrials as invaders bent on domination. "They come under the guise of friendship," Grayson shouted during one such rally, his voice booming through a megaphone. "But mark my words, they'll take everything we have and leave us with nothing." His words struck a chord with many who already distrusted outsiders. Protests erupted outside the settlement where the crew had established temporary quarters. Angry crowds chanted slogans and waved banners demanding the aliens leave Earth immediately. Tensions reached a boiling point when a group of protesters stormed the area, attempting to force their way inside. Mitchell ordered the crew to remain calm, instructing them to activate protective barriers rather than resort to violence. Samantha rushed to the scene, pleading with the crowd to stop. "This isn't helping anyone," she cried, her voice cutting through the noise. "Violence solves nothing. If you want answers, talk to me, I'll listen." Her words didn't sway everyone, but they gave the crew enough time to reinforce their position. As the standoff continued, Mitchell realized they needed a new strategy. They couldn't afford to isolate themselves, nor could they risk escalating the conflict further. That evening, Samantha joined the crew aboard their ship for a private meeting. She sat across from Mitchell and Natalie, her expression serious. "You need to show them something tangible," she said. "Something that proves you're here to help, not harm." Natalie leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you suggest?" Samantha thought for a moment before responding. "There's a village not far from here. It's struggling because of drought and poor soil quality. If you could demonstrate your technology by helping them grow crops or purify water, it might change people's minds." Mitchell exchanged a glance with Natalie. It was risky. Exposing their technology could lead to unintended consequences. But it was also an opportunity to build trust. After a brief discussion, they agreed to proceed. Next day, the crew accompanied Samantha to the village. The villagers watched warily as the aliens set up equipment designed to analyze soil composition and enhance water filtration. Within hours, the results were visible. Barren fields began sprouting green shoots, and clean water flowed freely from previously contaminated sources. Word of the miracle spread quickly, drawing visitors from neighboring towns. Some came out of curiosity, while others sought solutions for their own struggles. For the first time, many humans began to see the aliens, not as invaders but as allies. Victor Grayson, however, refused to back down. He accused the crew of manipulating the situation, claiming their actions were part of a larger scheme to control Earth's resources. His rhetoric continued to sway some, but the tide was turning. More and more humans were beginning to question his motives, especially as evidence of the aliens' goodwill mounted. As days turned into weeks, the fragile alliance between humans and aliens grew stronger. Samantha worked tirelessly alongside Natalie, translating technical jargon into terms the villagers could understand. Together, they taught basic principles of sustainable farming and resource management, empowering the humans to take charge of their future. Despite the progress, Mitchell remained cautious. He knew that trust took time to build but could crumble in an instant. Every interaction, every decision carried weight. Yet, amidst the challenges, he felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps Earth wasn't just a Class 13 world teetering on the edge of chaos. Perhaps it was a place where cooperation could flourish, even between two vastly different species. For now, the crew focused on strengthening their bond with humanity. They shared knowledge, offered assistance, and listened to concerns. Each step forward brought them closer to achieving their mission and proving that even the most unpredictable worlds could hold promise if approached with care. As the days passed, the bond between the alien crew and the humans grew stronger. Samantha Cole spent most of her time working alongside Natalie Brooks, translating complex ideas into terms that villagers could understand. Together, they introduced new methods for farming, water purification, and waste management. The results were undeniable. Crops flourished, clean water became more accessible, and communities began to thrive. For many humans, the aliens were no longer strangers, but partners in rebuilding their struggling world. However, not everyone shared this newfound optimism. Victor Grayson continued to rally opposition against the extraterrestrials, using fear and distrust to fuel his cause. His speeches grew louder and more aggressive, painting the aliens as invaders who sought to exploit Earth's resources. "They come with promises," he shouted during one of his rallies. "But what do they truly want? What secrets are they hiding?" Grayson's words resonated with some, especially those who had yet to see the benefits of the aliens' presence. Protests erupted sporadically, and tensions simmered beneath the surface. Despite these challenges, Captain Ryan Mitchell remained determined to prove that their intentions were genuine. He knew that trust took time to build, but could shatter in an instant. Every decision mattered. One evening, as the crew reviewed data from their explorations, Mitchell noticed something unusual. Strange energy readings had been detected emanating from deep within Earth's core. These patterns matched anomalies associated with Class 13 worlds, signs of instability that could spell disaster if left unchecked. At first, he hesitated to share the discovery, fearing it might cause panic among the humans. But keeping it hidden wasn't an option either. The next morning, Mitchell called Samantha to the ship for a private meeting. She arrived promptly, clutching her notebook as always. When she saw the concern etched on Mitchell's face, her curiosity turned to worry. "What is it?" she asked, sitting down across from him. Mitchell wasted no time. "We've found something troubling," he began. "Energy readings suggest that Earth's core is unstable. If left unchecked, it could lead to catastrophic consequences." Samantha's eyes widened. "How bad are we talking?" "Worse than anything you've faced before," Mitchell admitted. "Class 13 worlds often experience violent shifts, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, even atmospheric collapse. Without intervention, Earth could become uninhabitable." Samantha absorbed the information silently, her mind racing. Finally, she spoke. "Why hasn't anyone noticed this until now?" "It's subtle," Mitchell explained. "The changes happen slowly over time, masked by natural fluctuations. Our technology allowed us to detect it, but your scientists likely dismissed it as noise." Samantha nodded slowly, processing the implications. "If this gets out, people will panic, and Grayson will use it to turn everyone against you." "You're right," Mitchell said grimly. "Which is why we need your help. We can stabilize the core, but only if humanity cooperates fully. That means gaining the support of leaders and convincing them to act quickly." Samantha agreed to assist, knowing the stakes were too high to ignore. Over the following days, she worked tirelessly to gather evidence supporting the crew's claims. She reached out to trusted contacts within the scientific community, sharing data and urging them to investigate further. Slowly, a small group of researchers confirmed the findings, lending credibility to the aliens' warning. With this new information, Mitchell and Natalie arranged a meeting with key human leaders, including representatives from local governments and influential figures like Samantha. The atmosphere was tense as they gathered in a makeshift conference room near the settlement. Mitchell stood at the front, projecting images of the energy readings onto a screen. "This isn't just about us," he said, addressing the room. "It's about Earth's survival. If we don't act now, the consequences will be devastating for all of us." The leaders exchanged uneasy glances, weighing the gravity of the situation. Some were skeptical, questioning whether the aliens had ulterior motives. Others, swayed by Samantha's testimony and the corroborating research, began to see the urgency of the matter. Victor Grayson, however, refused to back down. He stormed into the meeting uninvited, his face flushed with anger. "This is a trick," he bellowed, pointing an accusatory finger at Mitchell. "You're trying to scare people into submission." Samantha rose to her feet, her voice steady but firm. "That's not true," she countered. "I've seen the data myself. This is real, Victor. If we don't work together, we risk losing everything." Grayson sneered, turning to the other leaders. "Don't listen to her. She's been manipulated by these so-called friends. They'll take control of our planet and leave us powerless." The room buzzed with tension as arguments broke out. Some sided with Grayson, while others defended the aliens. Mitchell watched quietly, realizing that the battle for trust would not be won easily. It was Samantha who finally broke through the chaos. "Enough!" she shouted, silencing the room. "This isn't about politics or power. It's about survival. Are we really going to let fear divide us when we have a chance to save our home?" Her words struck a chord. One by one, the leaders began to nod in agreement. Even those who had doubted the aliens acknowledged the seriousness of the threat. By the end of the meeting, a fragile consensus emerged. Humanity would cooperate with the crew to stabilize Earth's core. With time running out, the crew devised a risky plan. Using advanced alien technology, they would create a device capable of neutralizing the unstable energy within the core. The process required precise calculations and careful execution. If anything went wrong, the entire mission could fail. Samantha played a crucial role in coordinating efforts between the aliens and human teams. She translated technical instructions, organized supply chains, and kept morale high despite the mounting pressure. Her determination inspired those around her, proving that even in the face of uncertainty, unity was possible. Victor Grayson, however, wasn't done fighting. Determined to undermine the mission, he leaked classified details to the public, sparking widespread panic. News outlets broadcast alarming headlines, and protests erupted once again. Chaos threatened to derail everything the crew and Samantha had worked so hard to achieve. In response, Samantha took a bold step. She recorded a live message addressing the entire planet. Standing before cameras, she spoke directly to the people, explaining the truth about Earth's instability and the aliens' efforts to help. Her voice was calm but resolute, cutting through the fear and misinformation. "We stand at a crossroads," she said. "We can choose to let fear divide us, or we can come together to protect our future. These visitors aren't our enemies, they're our allies. If we work with them, we can save our world." Her words resonated deeply, swaying public opinion and forcing Grayson's supporters to reconsider their stance. Slowly but surely, humanity united behind a common goal. Leaders mobilized resources, and volunteers stepped forward to assist in the mission. As preparations neared completion, Mitchell reflected on how far they had come. What had started as a desperate gamble had evolved into a beacon of hope, not just for Earth but for the galaxy as a whole. Perhaps Class 13 worlds weren't doomed after all. Maybe, with patience and cooperation, even the most unpredictable places could find stability, but the hardest part was yet to come. Stabilizing Earth's core would require precision, teamwork, and a willingness to face danger head-on. As the final pieces fell into place, Mitchell felt a mix of apprehension and resolve. They had built bridges where none existed before. Now it was time to prove that those bridges could hold, even under the weight of a dying world. The final phase of the mission began under a sky heavy with clouds, as if nature itself sensed the gravity of what was about to unfold. The crew, along with Samantha and a team of human volunteers, gathered at a remote location near Earth's equator. This spot had been chosen because it offered the most direct access to the planet's core. Massive equipment, part alien technology, part human ingenuity, had been assembled over the past weeks, forming a towering structure that hummed with energy. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood at the center of the operation, his face etched with determination. Natalie Brooks worked tirelessly beside him, monitoring readings and making adjustments to the device designed to stabilize Earth's core. Samantha moved between the humans and aliens, translating instructions and keeping everyone focused. The tension in the air was palpable, but so was the sense of unity. For the first time in history, two species were working together to save a world. Victor Grayson, however, refused to give up his fight. He had gathered a small group of loyal followers and attempted to sabotage the operation. Under cover of darkness, they infiltrated the site, planting explosives near the base of the structure. Their plan was simple: destroy the device and force humanity to rely on itself rather than outsiders. But their actions did not go unnoticed. One of the human volunteers, a young man named Daniel, spotted the intruders while conducting a routine perimeter check. Without hesitation, he alerted the B crew. Mitchell immediately ordered a lockdown, sealing off critical areas of the site while a security team confronted Grayson and his followers. A brief but intense standoff ensued, ending when Grayson was disarmed and detained. Despite the disruption, the damage was minimal. The crew worked quickly to repair any affected components, ensuring the device remained operational. Samantha approached Grayson, who sat restrained nearby. His face was a mask of defiance, but there was also a flicker of regret in his eyes. "You don't have to agree with us," Samantha said calmly, "but you can't stand in the way of survival. This isn't about politics or pride. It's about life." Grayson didn't respond, but his silence spoke volumes. As he was led away, some of his supporters began to waver, questioning whether their resistance had been misplaced. Slowly, they drifted back to the main group, joining the effort instead of opposing it. With the immediate threat neutralized, the crew turned their full attention to the task ahead. The device was activated, sending pulses of energy deep into Earth's core. The ground trembled slightly as the machine worked to counteract the unstable forces within. Natalie monitored the readings closely, her hands moving rapidly over the controls. Every second felt like an eternity. "Energy levels are stabilizing," she announced finally, her voice tinged with relief. "But we're not done yet. We need to maintain this for another hour. Mitchell nodded, his gaze scanning the horizon. The clouds above seemed to lighten, breaking apart to reveal patches of blue sky. It was as though Earth itself was responding to their efforts, offering a sign of hope. As the hour dragged on, the strain began to show. The device required immense power, and backup generators struggled to keep up. Sparks flew from overloaded circuits, and the hum of machinery grew louder, almost deafening. Some of the human volunteers stepped forward, manually stabilizing loose connections and cooling overheating components. Samantha stayed close to Natalie, helping wherever she could. "We're going to make it," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. "We have to." Natalie managed a faint smile. "You're right. We've come too far to fail now." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the readings stabilized completely. The trembling ground grew still and the oppressive weight in the air lifted. A cheer erupted from the gathered crowd as Natalie confirmed the success of the operation. Earth's core was stable, for now. Exhausted but triumphant, the crew gathered to assess the aftermath. The device had done its job, but it couldn't last forever. Mitchell explained that humanity would need to develop new ways to monitor and maintain the balance they had restored. To aid in this effort, the crew left behind advanced tools and shared knowledge about sustainable practices. As preparations began for their departure, Mitchell addressed the group one last time. "This isn't goodbye," he said. "It's the start of something new. You've proven that even in the face of impossible odds, cooperation can lead to incredible results." Samantha stepped forward, her expression filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said simply. "For everything." Natalie lingered behind temporarily, choosing to stay on Earth to oversee the transition. Her expertise would be invaluable in helping humanity adapt to the changes ahead. She and Samantha formed a strong bond during this time, united by a shared vision of a better future. Back aboard their ship, the crew prepared for the journey home. Mitchell watched Earth shrink in the distance, its vibrant greens and blues glowing softly against the blackness of space. Despite the challenges they had faced, a sense of accomplishment filled him. They had not only saved a planet, but also forged a connection that transcended species. At the Stellar Accord headquarters, Alan Carter reviewed footage of the mission, his heart swelling with pride. What had started as a desperate gamble had become a beacon of hope, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Perhaps Class 13 worlds weren't to be feared after all. Maybe they simply needed someone brave enough to say, "Let's try." And so, as the ship disappeared into the stars, Earth stood as proof that even the most unpredictable places held potential, if approached with courage and understanding. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson, one that would shape its future for generations to come.